So the first step to drawing any portrait is that we want to draw the Loomis head. We draw a circle. It's important to note here that your circle does not have to be a perfect circle so long as its height is relative to its width. This is where you need to be a little intuitive because we cannot see the side ovals because this is a straight on angle. So with straight on angles, it's not an oval so much as it is a line. So the key points of your oval then become the top and the bottom. The principle remains the same here. Top of the oval falls in line with the hairline. Bottom of the oval falls roughly in line with the nose, okay? Once that's identified, you want to erase the side of your original circle, and then we want to establish the center line of the face, okay? Then once that's done, we want to pull down from the sides and then connect the sides to the bottom of the center line. And then we're going to pull over, connect the top of our oval that you can't see from one side to the other. We're going to do the exact same thing for the brow line. And then the thing about this specific angle is that we can use the bottom of the original circle as the nose line for our Loomis head. We then want to establish the anchor points for the top of the upper lip and the bottom of the lower lip. And then just so it's not a floating head in space, we want to punch in the collar and the shoulders here. So now take your kneaded eraser and just lightly hit your Loomis head so that it's more or less transparent on your paper. And just like other portraits, we want to start with the ear. Okay, we're going to use the ear as the launching point for the rest of our features. Because once we have the ear, we can use that as a gauge to start to feel out exactly how far do we need to run this line up to bring out the beginnings of the hairline as the hair rests on the backside of the temple, right? What I like to do as a best practice is I like to go up to the hairline of my Loomis head, and then I like to really solidify that hairline with my pencil. And then what we're going for here is you want to draw the outer outline of the subject's hair, okay? So what I'm doing here is I'm going up over the top and I'm using the first hairline as kind of a gauge for exactly how far back does that line need to go, right? I don't want the hair to be too big. I want it to be proportionally accurate to the reference photo. So this is what I was talking about with being able to use certain parts of the drawing to gauge your proportion of other parts of the drawing. And then she's got a ponytail here, so we're just gonna lightly sketch in the band, and then I'm going to continue to do nice light pulls so that I can continue to bring out the basic shape of her hair. I like to start with the ears and the hair. In certain reference photos, you won't be able to see the subject's ears, and that's fine. If that's the case, I would still recommend starting in that general area for your hair, and then just kind of go up the side of the face and establish that hairline where the bangs sit. If you do that, 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to start off with fairly accurate proportions. And then right here, this is what I like to call identifying the segments of hair. So we pretty much have more or less the outer outline of the subject's hair here. But now what I want to do is I want to bring out the flow of hair. Now when I say hair segment, a segment is like a part of, right? And when you look at hair very much has like clumps of it, or different groupings of hair that flows all together that create the whole on a subject's head. So because this isn't a detailed tutorial, I'm just kind of showing you how you would want to begin to sketch the portrait and start to bring out the different segments of hair so that you could identify that flow. Okay, so now we're going to switch it up from the Loomis method to the Assaro method. So first things first, we want to establish the nose bridge plane, which is a horizontal line, and then we're going to pull two vertical lines up at a slight angle away from each other. Once we have this, the tips of those vertical lines plug right in to the corner of the subject's eyebrows. So we can use that as the beginning of our eyebrow, just like this, and we're bringing out the two-dimensional shape of each one of the eyebrows here. This is step number one. I like to start with the nose bridge because it is dead center of the face, and then we can build everything else around that, okay? I've mentioned this in other portrait tutorials that I have. When it comes to the eyes, using the Assaro method, we like to draw from the top down, okay? So now we want to draw what are called frame lines. Now these frame lines help us to gauge where the top of the upper eyelid sits, okay? So right here I'm pulling down the temple plane. The temple plane falls in line with your second frame line. And then the third frame lines come right off of the edge of the eyebrows and down. And then what you want to do is you want to go through and connect all three frame lines, and these subsequently bring out the three planes that comprise the eyes according to the Assaro method, just like this, okay? We're going to create little tear ducts here, and then you just kind of loop this line back over and connect it to the corner, and you have the basic shape of your subject's eye. And then we're just going to do this on the other side as well. It's important for you to understand the foundational approach of the Assaro method and to practice it, because that will really help develop your skills. And then here I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to punch in the iris, the pupil, why not? She's got a little bit of light reflection. I'm going to punch that in as well. And then what I'm going to do to kind of just spice these eyes up a bit is I'm going to bring out the fold in her upper eyelid, just like this here. And we're just going to follow the contour, right? We're going to follow the contour of the upper eyelid. Yeah, something just like that. And then I'm just going to do some nice light sketches here to kind of build out the bottom of the eye, just so it has a little bit more structure. But as far as the facial structure in this one, don't worry, because we're going to be leaning heavily into the Assaro method for this one. So now as far as the nose, we want to start our nose from the underlying Loomis head nose line, okay? So if you have trouble identifying the planes, what we're doing, we're identifying the principal Assaro planes right here with the Assaro head, but at the same time, we are drawing it in as it applies to the reference photo, okay? Here's, we got our nostrils right here. And then once we have these bottom planes identified, we're going to pull up and in slightly like this. And this is what is called the nose ridge plane, okay? The ridge plane plugs very nicely into the bottom of the nose bridge plane. Bridge and ridge, similar, but different. So make sure you understand them. And then we're just going to plug in the corner of the eyes to the bottom of the nose bridge. And then these planes right here, these are what are called the slope planes. Now, the slope planes help to more or less frame the nose and really give you that three-dimensional framework, okay? So now we're going to pull down 2 parallel lines angled slightly away from each other, and that is going to bring out our philtrum plane. The philtrum plugs into what is known as the Cupid's bow, which is the top center of the upper lip, okay? And then you want to identify the corners of your mouth, and then very lightly bring that line over from the corner and plug it into your Cupid's bow. And then we can identify the center of the lips here, and then right here is where I kind of want to bring out the bottom of the lower lip. Now, lips are kind of tricky, especially when it comes to those lower lips, because what I like to do as a best practice is I like to kind of lift it up, but I don't connect the lower lip to the corner of the mouth. And then I'm going to punch in my Assaro planes. Now, according to the Assaro method, the upper lip is comprised of 2 planes, so you split it right down the middle with your line. And then the bottom lip is comprised of 3 different planes, so you can use the philtrum lines as kind of a guide for where to place those bottom 2 lines to bring out the 3 planes up the lower lip. And then here, there's a drop shadow underneath her lower lip, so I'm just going to kind of punch that in right there. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to build up the line work for her jaw, okay? Now, if you can't do this with one big line, don't worry. I would actually advise you not to. Just do what I'm doing. Just nice, short, little pulls of your pencil. Remember that shorter pulls will give you more control, okay? And you'll be able to identify if your proportions are slightly off as you're going, rather than doing a long pull and then having more to erase when you realize, oh wow, that's not what I wanted, you know? So that's also a best practice that you can follow. And so now here, what we're gonna do is, I'm just gonna punch in the top of her shirt. And then as far as your line work goes, guys, one of the things that you can do is you can mess around with your different line qualities and weights throughout the drawing. So say, for example, like this line right here, I'm going to give it a slightly thicker quality. Although there's lines within the hair, let's say, that have a very, very thin quality. I want to make sure that I keep those different. All right, so now what I want to do, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't give the Loomis head the Loomis cheek plane, is because I really want to focus on the Assaro planes on both sides of the face here with it being a straight on angle. So as you can see, we've extended the plane line up from the corner of the lips, and then we've extended that line up to plug into the side of the nostrils. And now we're going vertical. The part of the Assaro head that I want you to focus on here is the right side of the Assaro head, okay, your right. So when you look at it, those planes right there, that is what we are bringing out on both sides of the face. Now, this is the adaptability of the Assaro method in action here, okay? Because lots of people look at the Assaro head and they don't even realize that it's 2 different planes for 2 different types of faces. Kind of like with the Loomis method. Notice how we didn't put a Loomis cheek plane line on this one. I did that intentionally because I wanted to keep the drawing fairly clear so that you could really hone in on the Assaro planes that I'm drawing in right here, okay? These Assaro planes are essentially framing your underlying form. Remember how I always talk about underlying form. This is a way where you can really safeguard yourself, and not only that, but start to really remember exactly how the basic framework of the human face works, okay? Because I think we can all agree that the Assaro method, albeit simple, is much more comprehensive than the Loomis head. The Loomis head is more or less a mannequin. That's it. Where the Assaro head is that next step, right? It's that next gear, if you will, where we're really going places. It's just a little bit more comprehensive than a basic mannequin head like the Loomis head. So we're basically just punching these in very lightly, okay? But I would actually encourage you to really start to practice the Assaro method for your drawings so that your sketches can be as comprehensive as possible, because just like anything in life, the more you know, the more powerful you become. You know, your understanding is superior above your contemporaries. And that's good because it enables you to be the best artist you can possibly be. And now what I'm doing is I'm just willy-nilly kind of flying through this thing, and I'm just kind of highlighting where I'd want a shadow to be and trying to bring out more of that underlying form to make this drawing a little bit more dynamic. I know in all of my tutorials I always say, we're just going to be sketching it, we're just putting in the two-dimensional shape, and then I start detailing it and stuff, but I'm really trying to rein it in. But I think for this one of the things that I really want to do is I think I'll probably end up filling in the eyebrows, and I'm just going to be beefing up some of these different lines here. Like, notice this color right here. The more lines and the more time you give specific parts of your sketch, the more dynamic it will become, right? And that kind of falls back to what I was talking about with varying your different line qualities, right? You want super thick lines, you want very, very dark weights, and then you want the opposite. You want super, super thin lines, and you want very, very light weights. All of those things will come together to make your drawing just kind of pop. As promised, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to fill in her eyebrows. I think as time goes on, I'm going to slowly add more and more detail and kind of show you guys how you can make your drawings just a little bit better each time. Notice the flow, notice the direction. Every strike is intentional. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this one's a little bit more challenging because it's fairly symmetrical, right? Straight on angles are notorious for being trouble. But I have faith in you. Stay happy, stay healthy, and remember, never stop drawing.